Mic is on.
Mic's on. 1, 2.
Okay, great. We now have a quorum, so at 5:35, Planning and Zoning Board meeting, call to order. Mr. Light, would you please do the invocation?
All please rise. Gracious Father, direct us in all of our deliberations for the citizenry of the city of Lake City. Let our decisions improve the quality of life for those members within our local community. May you please watch out for all of us and for all the citizens of this city. This we ask in your name. Amen.
And Mr. Marshall, you're sitting far, far away. We usually have you call the roll.
Okay. All right, Mr. Adele,
Here.
Mr. Gallus,
George Alice.
George Alice, Mr. Lydic,
Here.
Mr. Cooper,
Here.
Mr. Nelson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you very much. Since we've missed minutes and missed meetings and not had meetings, the last meeting we had was September the 30th. I have already gone over those meetings. Do we need to review them before?
Were they sent out with our packets?
No,
Ah,
they didn't exist at that point in time. They were lost.
September was a long time ago.
Yes. This is historical preservation. Board of Adjustments have no minutes, no business whatsoever. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off on that one.
This one. Madam Chair, the only recommended addition that I have to these minutes is, it's actually a correction. In the future, can my surname be spelled Lydick?
Yes.
Very nice. Aside from that, although the time frame on this is pretty far stretched, this does appear to be the fairly factual rundown of the business we accomplished back in September. I move for the adoption of these minutes as submitted.
Dan, do you need to look at them before? Would you like to read?
I already seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
On Planning and Zoning Board, resolution number PZLPA LDR 21-05. And I believe Mr. Williams is here to represent that. Would you please give your name and address to,
I didn't realize that.
Thank you very much.
name and address?
Michael D. Williams, PO Box 224, White Springs, Florida. Currently city manager, City of Lake City.
You swear the information you provide this evening to be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Excellent. Would you tell us a little bit about the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. This resolution on behalf of the city is a change to the text of the LDRs in section 14.3. Commercial business district. Basically what this does is allow in certain areas in public property for there to be tables, chairs, benches, things of that nature. And for people who have an appropriate alcohol license within those restricted areas to serve beer and wine or alcoholic beverages per their license within that area. The beverages have to be in plastic cups, no glass, and they have to have the logo of the establishment that they're permitted on. The tables and chairs have to be vetted, and there has to be a license fee paid. This was an item that came before you as a workshop several months ago, and I believe that the Planning and Zoning Board workshop that reviewed this. And so I'm here back on behalf of the city asking that the board consider and hopefully recommend approval.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I have one issue for clarification. In section 4.14.3, permitted accessory uses and structures, section 3A in there says, and I quote, tables and chairs located on public rights of way shall be brought inside when the restaurant or bar is not in operation. Is that to say that the only caliber of tables and chairs that we're going to allow on these public thoroughfares and or pocket parks are going to be mobile? Will that preclude certain establishments like the businesses along the Veterans Street Pocket Park from being able to put more substantive materials such as material made of concrete, large metal benches, tables that may not be able to be moved in by a single employee at the end of every shift?
Well, if the reg says that they have to be removed when they're closed, then they would have to be moved. If they want to come back to lobby for something more substantial that would be permanent, then we'd have to reconsider that.
Are we already beyond the point of possibly adding another bullet point to this particular section of the ordinance to allow for the possibility of more substantive, wrought iron or concrete furniture items?
If that is the direction of the Planning and Zoning Council, it may be added.
Won't we have to go back through the whole review process?
I think that
Because
if
it's already
we,
been adopted by the city council.
no, it hasn't been adopted.
Oh, it hasn't yet.
No, it won't. It can't be adopted by the city council because y'all haven't recommended approval or disapproval of it yet. So at this juncture, I think we could make that a change of that one bullet. Okay. The way that this works is that once you reach decision on this item, then basically it would go to the city council in January. It'd be re-advertised again. It's going to them as an ordinance for the adoption. Then they would have a public hearing in January and do the first reading and then the second reading in February. And that would be final adoption.
Okay, so for us asking for this additional bullet point, it won't unnecessarily slow
No,
down.
we'd be
the
happy to do
process.
that if that's what the board so desires.
Chris, you'd have to add your language, what you want.
Yes.
Number 3 above it, outside seating requires application approval.
Yes.
Yes, and that also down at the very bottom under sub-bullet B, it also indicates that COAs would be needed for these outdoor seating items as well, provided they fall within the jurisdictional limits of a historic district.
Further discussion?
I think it's good. In case some of the, I'm thinking about storage, I mean, a lot of these restaurants may not have the storage capacity to take in 4 tables and 16 chairs and 4 umbrellas and all this stuff. So having more permanent tables and chairs sounds to me like probably a better idea for the restaurants.
And it allowed for a more durable and quality product than something that merely a single employee could pick up and hoist into the shop at the end.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think it's a great idea, at least put that language in there and give them the option.
Then am I hearing possibly a motion to strike subparagraph A?
I don't know if he was striking that or if he needs additional language.
It's probably done with a, leave it as optional. Either they have something they can take in or have a sub-bullet B to that, like ones A and B, and say, or upon approval, COA, to have more substantial permanent type structures as approved by appropriate agency would be allowable.
And will you need that language tonight, or is this something that we can circulate amongst the board?
I need it as quickly as possible, but I can't tell this board how quickly they have to provide it.
Well, under paragraph 3, the lead paragraph of the
Mhm.
section, the outside seating requires application approval.
Yes,
And section A underneath it says the items will be brought inside.
but then if we add that as A and then we say B, for those businesses wishing to invest in more substantial tables and chairs that would not be able to be brought inside, if permitted and COA issued, they could remain.
So
Like-
That's been-
It'd be like 3A, Roman numeral 1 and
Yeah.
Roman numeral 2.
Right, exactly.
To distinguish the two on A.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So you give them option.
Okay, so item 3 says it shall be approved. A says brought inside. If we added, unless
If you
items
say A1,
approved as above
mm-hmm,
are substantially substantial as to prohibit.
yes.
Okay. Did you get all that, Marshall?
Yes, ma'am. I think I did.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with that?
With that one amendment, I'm very comfortable with that, Madam Chair.
And if he reads it back, then we can actually vote on that now. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Can you read that back?
On my chicken scratch?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna be adding subsections
To
to
3A.
Under
3A,
3A, it would be 3A1,
3A1,
which is,
Roman
you
numeral
know,
1.
would be taken inside, and then 3A2, unless as permitted and approved of substantial origin as to prohibit
Correct.
removing them.
And that's at a business owner's expense, correct?
Yes,
Oh, no, yes.
Madam Chair, I believe that the city has the intent of the board, if that meets with your intent.
Fantastic. Then I think we have a motion.
Call the motion.
Motion second.
I move approval.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved, Marshall.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board.
There is no further business to come before planning and zoning. Is there any old items or workshop items we need to discuss? None?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
it's my sad duty to inform the board that at your last meeting, the board voted on and approved an RV park. However, that RV park was not appropriately advertised. So we're working on re-advertising that. We're contacting the applicant. It was not the fault of the board, it was the fault of city staff. We're correcting that, and that should come before you again, hopefully in January.
Okay, do you remember the ones he's talking about? The one out just on the access road,
Just on the other side of 75.
just on the other side of 75?
Way
Where it
down
was a
here.
big piece of property, but they were only gonna put a few lots on it.
The RV park.
Yes.
I don't-
The RV park, I think it was Florida Gateway RV Park, if you're familiar with, you go down just past the interstate exchange where you get on to South 75. And then there's an access road that goes down there. There's the Best Western, there's a Fairfield Inn in the back. The Hampton, yeah. And then there's Travel Country RV.
Yes, we did in the back.
Yes, just past Travel Country RV, there's an 8.75 acre lot that they were going to do that. And that was brought before you and approved on September 30th, but the city failed to appropriately advertise. So we will have to re-advertise and bring that back to you.
Rings a bell now.
Okay.
Then the December the 7th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board for Lake City.
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Second. Is closed at 10:06. Yes. Historic Preservation Agency for the city. The same invocation, we don't need to redo that, and the same roll call because we're all here. We don't normally redo those. The minutes from the last meeting, once again, the last time we met was September the 30th. Those have been approved already and passed in. There is no old business. Items of new business is a consent agenda. We agreed several months ago that items of a routine nature would be handled on a consent agenda. So instead of reviewing everyone individually, it would come to us on one agenda. So there are 4 items on the consent agenda. Petition COA 2129, petition COA 2130, COA 2131, and COA 2132. So Mr. Williams will represent those from the Planning and Zoning Office. You're already sworn in. You don't have to do that again.
Thank you, ma'am. Basically, these were 4 items or applications for COA that people had filed, basically for either roof replacement and type for type. I think Mr. Leidick has seen one, the copper colored one. The chair has seen several of those. The others were replacement of windows or things that were basically minor in nature that met the intent. We went out and reviewed those. They also sent in stuff. We've had different people look at them. Mr. Sova looked at them, I looked at them. And since we were both fairly new at this, we asked the chair to also take a look at some of those to make sure that we were following the board's intent.
I did write all 4 of these.
It was the view of the city staff after reviewing these that they met the conditions that you would require.
And for, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, may I ask? For these items on the consent agenda where work has already either begun or concluded, just because we didn't get the opportunity to drive by these prior to work having been initiated, can you confirm that all of the roofs that were being roofed over were of a modern character, and that, for example, modern Galvalume style product wasn't going on over an early 1900s roofing material?
Yes, the roofs that were replaced were basically type for type. They either the roofs were so bad that, they had metal roofs and they were replaced with metal roofs, or they were shingle roofs and they were replaced with shingle roofs.
Were they replaced or roofed over just using purlins?
I think they were roofed over. Okay.
Because we have had some issues on this board previous where modern metal roofing product was put over original 1910 fabric, not over 1950s asphalt shingling or something.
No, I don't
like that.
think in this case that was the case at all. In most cases, it was type for type.
Okay. Or something that actually turned the clock back on the
Yes.
property.
Yes. And we want to make sure that everything that was done basically complemented the historic district and trying to make it look more modern or make the property stand up.
metal and asphalt shingles.
Always love seeing the asphalt shingles getting covered up in the historic district.
The same as my house, as slate. Original,
For the last 200 years.
that's original. That's what I did too. What I did.
And Madam Chairman, may I ask Mr. Williams?
Oh,
I went out to Dwayne Thomas's, COE 2130. I tried to see in the box, but, I said, I'm quite sure these, new metal sheets that going on the roof, that they would be blue, just like the
Yes, sir.
majority of the roof.
Yes, sir.
They're gonna be blue.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Cause I was thrown off by that galvalume. In my mind, that usually means silver or, but it can't be painted.
We try to make sure that, people stay within the period as much as possible and that whatever they replace with, that it's reflective of what was previously there.
Madam Chair.
yes.
One other just very small minor housekeeping thing. For the agenda packets that are delivered to our residences for review prior to the meeting when we go and do our drive arounds,
Yes, sir.
where there are color swatches, can we have those in color?
I think we can make that. I can see where that would be. Which shade of, red?
These are all beautiful shades of gray, don't get me wrong.
Any further questions or information that we need for these items?
Is it customary that they re-roof a house before they actually come before the board and get approval? Is that just because the board hasn't been meeting for a couple months?
I think that the issue was, it was kind of like a little bit of a perfect storm. People were trying to get things done. They're filing permits. The city growth management department was fairly well decimated. We lost just about everybody that was in there except for one person. It's taken us a while to refill those. At the same time, after your September 30th meeting, with the, people leaving the board because their term of office expired, it left us in a position of not having a quorum, so there's no way that you could meet and do things. So.
Did those individuals go to the county then?
No,
Or
they
they
still
still
came in.
They were waiting for
They
us?
still came in to us and they filled out the appropriate paperwork, but then all of a sudden, you're talking about now we're looking at a 2-month delay. And so that's the reason why that we reached out, to the chairman. She comes in and does some stuff with us periodically to help us out because she volunteers some because we were so short. And we discussed that and went and looked at those. And so when they're minor things like that we can do and then bring you on the consent agenda, we really hate to hold people up from making those repairs or those things. I think moving forward, you won't see a lot of that.
It was an emergency provision.
So they'd already filed the paperwork, got the permit.
Yes. They filed the paperwork, they had their permit. They
Gotcha.
applied for their certificate, their COA. Basically, the thing was is that due to not having a quorum on this board and due to the city being short-staffed, perfect storm that led to a long period of time. It was
That makes sense.
getting to the point where it was being, creating an issue for people, so we needed to do something with that. Thanks to now having a quorum, we're working to fill the remaining seats on the board. We're working on making sure we have a representative for the school board. I think things will settle down and you'll see things doing a lot more, including the color.
Swatches.
Now,
So
the vehicle consent agenda was already in place. These 4 got caught in a 2-month. And you know how hard it is.
Yeah.
They have somebody sitting waiting for us to come up with a quorum to another meeting.
Typically,
They got a contractor going, hey,
Right.
typically in general, an entire re-roofing of a structure or an entire re-facading of a structure, that is not something that would ordinarily get just tucked into the consent agenda. That would actually have a more substantive review by the board. When you get your set of hard copy LDRs
Yeah.
If you take a look in Article 10, dealing with the historic structures and the provisions therein, you'll see that there's a list of what we would consider routine maintenance items that don't require a COA, minor items that at the level of the city administrator, they can go ahead and provisionally issue a COA, and then we just ratify it through a consent agenda. And then major projects, which would always come before us.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense.
You may want to mention that these properties are in the historical district, which is different if it was a non-historical district.
Right.
Procedure is different.
Yeah, the rest of the city, all you need is a building permit. When you're in the district, you require a building permit in addition to the issuance of a COA.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you for being patient and explaining that.
Any further information, questions? May I have a motion that we,
So moved.
Seconded.
all in favor?
Ratify.
Unanimous.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there is no workshop items. Does anyone need a discussion on anything? Before we,
Do you have any desire to speak on that property on South Marion as we were,
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Okay. You're on. Mr. Lydic had brought to my attention that there was a property South Marion,
South Marion?
basically had violated the regulation by installing milling in their front yard, covering their front yard completely. That was of some concern to me and also to Mr. Sova, our code enforcement officer. I dispatched him out. He went out and looked at that, and he and I went out and looked at it together. The people at that particular residence, what he found is not only were they doing that, they were doing a roofing job without a building permit and without a COA, as well as having an inappropriate dumpster, as well as having open building. We're in the process of, through the code enforcement process, trying to meet with them to resolve those issues, the building permit issues in the process of getting resolved, the dumpster issue has been resolved. We'll just have to see how that goes. We're trying to work with the individuals as much to the extent as possible, but we do need to make sure that people conform to the ordinances and rules of the city and planning and zoning board and historic preservation. Once you start letting people just do whatever they want to and you don't enforce it, then it just gets out.
Enforcement measures are you going to take if they keep avoiding code enforcement?
The city works on a compliance-based system. What we really try to do is work with people to gain compliance. In a lot of cases, people don't know, they don't understand, maybe they just moved here. One of the things that we talked about with the chair, and I think it's a great idea, is that maybe in the future, what we need to do is get you guys on the talk circuit, maybe go to the Board of Realtors when they have a meeting, or go to some of the local things like that, so that we educate them on the fact that if you're selling a house in the historic district, we can give you a handout or create a handout that says, if you want to do it, if you're buying a house that's historic, if you want to do certain changes or certain things, you need to obtain a certificate of appropriateness. You get that through the city road management department. If you have questions, here's some people we call to ask about to make sure that what you're doing is appropriate.
You mentioned just now that the talk circuit of going and speaking.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in our
Well,
job
if
description,
if
but
it's not in your job description and you don't want to do it, then Mr. Sobel or myself would be more than happy to do that.
I think it's more your decision because the sunshine law, I don't think allows us to go out and do that.
Well, not in groups. But basically, all this is an educational outreach thing. I think a lot of people come in and buy houses, and they just think that they bought an old house. And they don't understand, or maybe they didn't see, or they're not quite understanding what it means yet. Yes, you bought an old house, you bought an old house in the historic district, so therefore there's different procedures and things that you have to follow. So I think that, we can work on an education process to let people know. And,
So for the people who are doing their roofing without a permit, putting millings down without a permit, and
well, that's enforcement action.
doing all kinds of stuff without a permit,
Well, what we do is basically, if the person did that and it's something they didn't know, we bring them into compliance. They normally, as a minimum, we're gonna have to pay more than the usual fee, things of that nature. But what we're more interested in is corrective action than punitive action in some cases. Now, if people, were to decide that, hey, we're just going to avoid you, we're not gonna talk to you, and maybe you'll go away, then that forces us into, going from, we'll work with you to bring you into compliance to where we're going to tag you and just go from there because it gets entered into our system. And then, takes a little longer, but within a month or so, these people wind up with a summons to go in front of the special magistrate.
gotcha.
When we get a special magistrate.
We do,
Do we have one?
we do.
Who did we get?
Very nice lady. Very firm, but very
Very good.
Is there a name that goes along with that?
there is, but it's drawing a blank with me right now.
No, it is.
Good.
It's Stephanie Marchman.
Stephanie Martin.
Leave my number.
We had a special magistrate hearing November 30th. We couldn't have it regular scheduled time because of holidays and their Veterans Day and stuff. So we're probably not going to have one in December. So we'll start back on the regular schedule in January. That should be normally.
That's out of our authority
Yes,
when it's done with us.
that comes to code enforcement.
That's correct. We have
I
authority.
just want to let the board know that there is enforcement action. The city strives very diligently to work with people just to bring them into compliance because sometimes it may kind of, it may, you guys know, you are on planning and zoning board, you're on the historic preservation board. So you know this stuff, some of you have been on here for years, but somebody new to the city, it may be a sin of omission or just not knowing. So, at the end of the day, we want to teach them and bring them into compliance. And if we can do that in a positive manner, we strive to do that, we can.
Further questions, discussions? There being no further business.
Land development.
Do we have the 3-ring binders ready for distribution yet?
No, but we'll try to get to this week. What I will do, you're talking about the LDRs.
The comprehensive LDRs for our new members?
I'll get both of those to you. We'll try to get them here, if not this week, first part of next week. We'll have them in time. Well,
And the websites will be up.
the website should be up now.
Yes, it is up, yes.
And the website does have LDRs on it.
I haven't received an email for any login information or anything.
Okay, well, we'll get it for you.
Don't feel bad. I've been here 25 years. I don't have it either.
But we were handing those out at the last meeting.
Yeah.
It was the orientation and training meeting.
Some guy must have not shown up at the orientation.
I don't know who he was, but the ones that were here had.
I don't know any names, but
Yeah.
but I think I was late to the meeting tonight.
Marshall?
How many binders do we need? Just the 2?
Just the two for Mr. Cooper and Mr.
Unfortunately, my LDR, the most current date on it is 2010.
Marshall,
So you
just
need
go ahead and get,
I need one also.
get 5.
5?
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
reach out to Scott Coons tomorrow, have him mail us 5 new LDRs.
And you have new members coming on board?
Yep, and we'll get some more for them.
Yeah.
The mechanism to keep it updated, that's gonna be a pain. But we'll get together and figure something out.
Yes, ma'am.
It's called addendums.
Well, you know how, like mine, from 2010, that's how current mine is. And so to keep each one of ours updated, and we'll make you turn it in if you resign.
I'll make sure not to put my name.
Once again, if there is nothing further, and one other item that we had discussed is since many people are unaware of the historic districts, Mr. Williams is looking into seeing if we can put up signs indicating you are now entering the Lake Isabella Historic District. You are now entering the downtown or the, whatever they call it. It's Lake City Historic.
Florida Division of Historic Resources has some street placards on Marion. The brown signs with the Division of Historic Resources symbol.
Right.
We have a now entering and now exiting for the Historic Commercial District, but I do not believe we have a matching set issued to us by the state for the Lake Isabella District.
Yeah.
Mr. Leidig, since you're on the board, and you probably know the difference between the historical district on a state level and a national level, because there's two different
Registers.
So you're probably about to share that information because that's different. You know, what you're entering.
As far as on the main thoroughfares, all the entrances and exits should be the same based on what's on both sets of registers. The only addition we made was for the Florida Master Site File jurisdictional boundaries of the periphery of some portions of districts where they inconveniently cross the center of someone's parcel.
You
We
may want to share that. What I'm referring to. But the City may not.
for our new folks.
Well,
Oh, no, the city has it. I sent a copy to Mike via our new city email. a
Yes,
couple days ago.
he did.
Okay.
And I'm supposed to send that out to the rest of you.
You've been busy.
Because if I send it, it's outside the sunshine now.
Yes, it is.
I don't know how Mike has time to be the temporary city manager. We're consuming all of his time with growth management and planning and zoning.
You're officially no longer retired.
For just a few more weeks.
Sorry.
But now that we brought the topic up, the maps I provided to you, there was no issues you had with that. The changes we've recommended to the State Historic Preservation Office.
I really saw no issue with those. I'll be sending them out to the rest of the board. I'll try to get them out this week.
Okay, because those were mostly just housekeeping changes to prevent lines from crossing property parcels.
Right, and then, the Madam Chair said that one of the things we were looking at that we thought when we were discussing it, not only, kind of a little bit of an education program to make people aware. That's the reason why we mentioned the realtor, because realtors are people who sell houses. And so that would be great if when they're selling a house to somebody, if we can put together a little packet that says this house is in the Lake City Historic District or Historic Preservation District, and then just put just a few bullet points on there.
Good luck.
You know, you will need to get COAs.
In theory, there's a space in most MLS listings where the box is either checked yes or checked no for is this part of a listed national district?
You mentioned getting the realtor or the agent to state that,
You click the button.
yes. Good luck.
I'd like them to be able, if they would, do that, because that could be a positive selling point. I'm not sure they'll make it one. But, I just really want them to be able to, when they sell a home in there, that they hand people this one little sheet that says, this home is in this particular historic district, and, here's the contact, if you're gonna make changes, you'll need, certificate of appropriateness, and it's people that you call and discuss it.
I think it's a good idea. I just don't know how it's, the enforcement of it would.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
think we can enforce it, but we can reach out and try to the education.
We can encourage it.
The other thing is that, as we had discussed, that if we were able to, promote a little bit more visibility, I mean, you would think that when people drive through a place with some really nice old houses that are kind of kept up, or improved, this is a really neat, it's a historic district. Instead, a lot of people don't think about it. If we were to, the main entrances to these historic districts, if we had a sign that now entering Lake Isabella Historic District, now, it can be appropriate. Of course, this board would have to approve it, but if we could put those up so that when people drive in, they're now seeing a sign that says, yes, you are entering historic district.
It'd be more of a city council approval. So
Yes.
it's paid for.
The city council would pay for it, but for appropriateness things, it would come to you because you're the historic, because it would basically require COA to put that sign up in the historic district. So we want to be in
Compliance.
compliance as well as we want other people to be. I'd hate to go put signs up, spend several $1,000s and then come in here one night and say.
Purple signs?
So we certainly look forward to working with you. We know you're the subject matter expert on a lot of these things, and so we welcome.
There being no further business, and I believe we already did the motion.
So moved.
Second for adjournment.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are officially at 6:15.
Very nice.
Or you
Microphones off.
microphones off.
One second.